this good right here?
Yeah.
Don't mind the table. Stay on the table. So my name is Sister Erin. I am an Ursuline sister, and I live in Cleveland, Ohio. So I will make the trip we left in Wisconsin yesterday, and I'll make the trip back home to Cleveland. And my trip will end at the RNC with the 9 other sisters. So the issue that I have is housing, which is where you are seated. And a couple of facts about housing, that when we talk about the housing gap, is that on any given night, there are more than 500,000 people homeless in the United States. So when we talk about the housing gap, I think all of us can say we like going home to our bed at night and putting our head on our table and cooking in our kitchen and living in the place that we call home. And we know that on any given night, there are over 500,000 people who don't have that opportunity. And when we talk about homelessness, it's just not about people that are out on the street. It's about transitional homelessness, where people are maybe bouncing from friend's couch to friend, couch surfing as we called it in college, moving from one place to the next, but don't have a place that truly is their own. Sleeping in their cars, the homeless shelters are full at night, and we know that homelessness can also go hand in hand with mental illness and some other things that prevent people from being in a stable housing situation. We know access to poor jobs. They don't make enough to pay their rent and buy groceries and take care of their medical needs. So housing is really at the fundamental basic need of all of us. And it's very important that we take the time to really talk about how do we funnel resources and policy around making safe and affordable housing for our brothers and sisters. Two of the great resources on your table are what Network is calling a side-by-side. So the first one, depending on what you pick up, is your Illinois Senate candidates, which are Tammy Duckworth and Mark Kirk. And the seven issues that we talk about at Network are on here, and each candidate matches up to how they feel about the issue. So for housing, we know that in Illinois, you have a shortage of over 300,000 housing units that are affordable and available for low-income residents. And so that is kind of the panel that goes with housing. And you can read about the Senate race candidates and where they fall on housing. The other side-by-side is our presidential candidates, and that gives you an indication of where they fall on the 7 issues that have to do with Network and the policy issues that we're really bringing forward to mend the gap. Housing is a critical one because, as I said before, it is one of the fundamental basic needs that if you have good housing, you have access to a lot of other things. We can talk about how low and affordable housing is not always available in the best neighborhoods, and that those families are trying to make an effort to live life just like you and I are, but maybe they don't have transportation to get them to the grocery store, or they don't live in a good school district, so it's an uphill climb at their local school. I'm principal of an urban grade school in Cleveland, and so I often have to remind my coworkers and the teachers I serve with that we have kids that come in the door every morning who are hungry and had struggled the night before and got their 3 siblings dressed into school. And I'm complaining because they didn't have a pencil when they walked in. So it's hard to learn and be focused at your job and be present to your family when you don't have somewhere to go every night. So these are the things we talk about when we talk about access to affordable and safe housing. So at this time, that's kind of my little overview of housing, is that the group is supposed to talk about 3 things, okay? You can share a story about how you personally have been affected by a gap in housing, so something that's happened in your family or you personally. You can talk about share a story about how you personally are working to mend the gap. I heard it from my earlier table about some housing initiatives that you have in the local Bloomfield area. And the last is, what does the world and community look like when we have mended this gap? What is possible? What does it look like when we've mended this gap? Okay? So I'm going to have you kind of buzz at your table, just kind of talk about whatever you feel called to. If you have a story where you have personally been affected, someone in your family, the way that you're trying to mend the gap, or what is the problem? What could it look like? Where is the hope in this? Okay? So I'm going to give you a little time to buzz at your tables. I'm just going to kind of float and listen. And then we'll report back.
As she was talking, I was remembering of it when we were doing